Dear colleague and dear partner, it's a great... Okay.
Microphone.
Yes. Dear colleague and dear partner, it's a great pleasure to be here today and to present the project result in Albania. What I would like to thank you very much, firstly, our lead partner, Roberta and Masha, because they have supported us during the whole process, and also I would like to thank you all the other partners. Love Your Heart project is very important for Albania, and especially for our organization. We are a humanitarian organization in Albania established since 1991. We work with vulnerable groups, especially Roma and minority groups that have economic problems, and we try to integrate them in the Albanian society. I wanted just to mention a little bit because we are quite different from the other partners that have participated in this project. I would like to mention that Love Your Heart project is important because, as Roberta mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, the cardiovascular disease is one of the main killers in Albania, and the rate of death from these diseases has increased constantly in this two decades. This is a proof from different statistics that have been shown in Albania. I would like to mention that also the project in Albania, different from the other partner, we have mostly focused in primary and secondary prevention. Thus, our main focus was to improve the population lifestyle through education, and our focus was to create a network among different stakeholders and actors in Albania. So, as Roberta mentioned, we have in the beginning some associate partner, which was the Minister of Health, the Minister of Social Welfare, but we try to integrate more actors, public institutions, health institutions, like the Institute of Public Health in Albania. Also, we try to integrate the Minister of Education because we wanted to work with children as their future, their health and their habits will affect their health in the future. And also, we try to integrate NGOs, as mentioned, that work with the Roma, but also that work with the Albanian society, but in rural and suburban areas of different regions. Especially the Adriatic as the main focus of the project, and the funds were mostly focused in the Adriatic region of Albania. The target group, as I will show and present a little bit more, was quite diverse. We target from children because we thought their future is very important. And since childhood they create their habits, we have to influence their habit to be positive for their health in the future, to young people, to women, to men, to elderly people, of course, because they show the risk factor of cardiovascular diseases. The project was quite long. It was implemented for 3.5 years. In the beginning, as I have to mention, there is a problem in Albania about statistical data. We created our own small research in Albania in order to, what was our aim was to create adequate health education for the Albanian citizens. So through the support and assistance from abroad, we created a small research program. We called it a community research, when we evaluated the risk factor of cardiovascular diseases in the Albanian, in Tirana, which is the capital, but not in the main, in the suburban area, and also in some rural parts. We target through this small community research not only Albanian, but also minority, because our focus in Albania were not only Albanian, but also our minority groups like the Roma, which I will show a little bit later, their health situation and their problems. What I would like to mention is some of the main findings. In reality, many of those findings we know because, as mentioned, ADRA worked in rural areas, in suburban parts, and with minority. But what we observed were that there was quite a disparity between the educations of the Roma and Albanians. So when we had to implement the programs, the education program for cardiovascular diseases, we have to create two different programs, one that targets Albanians and one that targets the Roma. Also, what we have observed was that people was quite very interested in learning more and being more informed. So providing information to them was quite important. Also, something that was interesting was that Albanian society, or the Albanian people, Roma and Albanian, have a very high tendency to solve their health issue through medication. Thus, what they will prefer was just to go to take a pill, like a medication, and solve the health issue, then changing their healthy lifestyle. All this issue that, because we had also other findings that we have found, were integrated in our health programs, and we try to make them more reachable to the Albanian population. I will go through providing some of the activity that we have implemented in Albania. And we, in the project, it was written that we have to organize 180 training. We have conducted them. And we have conducted 98 training, which were mostly focusing to the Albanian citizen. And as mentioned, we targeted young people, children, women, elderly people. So we have a variety of age groups and also of gender. But also we had beneficiaries that, based on the calculation and participation list that we have kept very strictly, because it was quite important for the project to show the result. We have an end conclusion of 1,300 around beneficiary of this activity. I mostly provided in the presentation photos of the activity, so you can have a look of also what have been organized. This is a training with young people. What we have observed during our study, but also research, is the young people in Albania, they have very bad habits. They are not well neutered, so they eat bad foods, and they lack physical activity in most of the cases. So what was very important for us was to create programs that were specific to them and targeted this issue. So we create kind of healthy lifestyle program and implemented them in our center in order to target this issue that we have identified through our work with young people. One of the things that Roberta mentioned was also that we have reconstructed kitchen in our center, and the kitchen was very important because in order to change the lifestyle of these young people was to provide practical advices and experience of good food. So we involved them in cooking classes, providing them some very simple recipes, how they couldn't cook them and how they couldn't eat together in the end. So they enjoy very much this experience. But also what we target, which is also the other photo in the end, is also the women. What we thought it is very important is women, because they are the key actor in the family. So if we can change their habits, also we can change the family habits. And in the end, we will have a better society and a different lifestyle for the whole family. I will go with another target group. As I mentioned, we target children. We target children because what we were understanding is they were very inactive, staying at home, playing computer or other activities. So we thought involving them in some aerobic classes, which were implemented quite regularly for 1.5 years in our center, we can make them understand the importance of activity and that they can play and have active life and change their life in the future. One of the main targets also were the elderly. Of course, this target group, of course, showed their risk factors, and they were the most interesting part, who wanted to learn a lot about the cardiovascular diseases, about their different aspects, and they were enrolled in different programs. We have screened them since the beginning, and then we have kept note of their situation, how their risk factors were evolving and how they were. But I can say that they were the most interested in everything. Yes. As I mentioned, despite the Albanian, we have targeted the Roma community. Our organization works with Roma, which is one of the minority group in Albania. The Roma populations, they live in slums, in tents, in suburban rural areas of capital, but also in other locations in Albania. We have gone through different locations implementing our project. We have a tent, or what we call a mobile clinic, and we were going them and implementing screening, but also we were implementing training with them and different programs. We have organized around 70 trainings, which were more than 712 Roma people registered. Of course, when we created the programs, because I have made some photo, we have made a difference between the man and the boy because they don't come together, and it was quite difficult. So also very important for us was also women, and especially those with very young children and babies, in order to provide information about health, like good nutrition for their children. One of the main activities of our project, despite working with children through small training and activity, was also achieving the cooperation of the Ministry of Education, and especially implementing awareness activity, or what we call school campaign in school. So we achieved to implement in total 27 school campaign. Around 470 pupils have been participating in this activity. Like, I have put a lot of photos. We have a lot more because 27 activity, but some of them, as we organized with the Italian partner, they were kind of training. Some of them, they were awareness activity for the whole school. So most of the time, it was depending on the cooperation with the director of the school, if they wanted to cooperate more or less. So it did depend also on the project. What was one of the main things that we learned during the implementation of the project is that people in Albania love to be screened. So most of them, they never have been screened about cardiovascular diseases, but when you go and put a tent somewhere in Tirana, in a suburban areas, everyone will come and want their blood pressure to be checked, or they would want their glucometer to be checked. So this was quite interesting, and what we observed we went in many locations, not only in Tirana, but Fier, Durrës, Korça, Lezhë, and Krye are different cities in Albania. And we achieved to screen around 1,130 Albanians and Roma, because we did with both of them. And in many cases, we will find people who never know that they have high blood pressure, high glucose level, and we will advise them, and mostly we will try and advise them to go directly to their general doctor, because they have to follow up, as their risk factor was quite high. And of course, we are located in Tirana and not operating constantly through our city. Of course, part of the program, as in the other partner, we try to make some education for the education staff in different kindergarten and schools. So we achieved to organize 5 training. What was the aim of this training was mostly to provide information to train this educational staff about the importance to teach students the healthy lifestyle. What we have observed during the school campaign, because most of the things that we were implementing, we have observed and assessed and evaluated during the implementation of the project, is that children, as I mentioned, have very bad habits. They eat bad food, they drink Red Bulls and other things during the school, and nobody knows to stop and to say, no, don't do this because it's bad. So we thought that through education of teachers, we could change a little bit these bad habits of students. Of course, we had some trainings, but they were very few with the nurse and the doctor. They were mostly focusing in providing information of how to conduct primary and secondary prevention in Albania. So they were nurses from the general doctors, like centers. For the dissemination activity, I will go very few. We created two type of dissemination activity. We created flyers for children or students, which have basic advice for healthy lifestyle, and we created materials for education for citizens, which were providing information for cardiovascular diseases risk factor. Of course, as Roberta mentioned, we created our own blogspot and Facebook, and we try to be very active in the social media. Part of our activity of dissemination activity were also the radio program that we have implemented. We have asked to different doctors to speak in radio programs about different issues related with the cardiovascular diseases. And we have cooperated with different actors implementing what was also named in the project the World Days. In many cases, we have operated with the Cardiovascular Association in Albania and with other companies that wanted to promote a healthy lifestyle in our country. I would like to thank you, everybody.